that is not good enough for the families who are understandably devastated. Joining me now exclusively is Jennifer Marquez. She is David Harrington's mom. Jennifer, thank you for doing this, and I am so sorry that we're meeting under these circumstances. What have the police told you, if anything?
They haven't told me anything. I spoke with the detective today, and he didn't release any information to me. I asked him a few questions, and I told him some things that I had heard from people that were David's friends, and he seemed interested in some things, but they did not give me any information. And it took me 3 calls to get anybody to call me back today. And that was the first time I'd spoken with anybody since about a week and a half now.
What did they tell you about Jordan Willis? Because they've spoken to him. They're not telling us what Jordan Willis has said, but did they say anything to you about what Jordan Willis said?
No, they have not said anything about what Jordan has said. The only things that I've heard are what his lawyer has said on the news. I have not heard a single thing from him or from the police about him. The reports I get are strictly from news.
So the detective never said anything like Jordan's story adds up or anything like that?
Well, yet 2 weeks ago, right when I found out, there was a police officer that I spoke to. I think it was the day after I found out what happened. I had called to ask what I was supposed to be doing. And an officer that I spoke to in the morning, when I was talking to him, he said that they were allowed to go in the night that they were called to Jordan's house, and that they looked around, and that they took Jordan in and they talked to him, and that his story added up. And he hesitated for a minute and said, I'm not really allowed to go into very much, but when it's all released, it's going to make sense. And I thought, how could that make sense? It's only, in my perspective, it was only 2 days after I found out, or a day after I found out. So only a couple days after they saw my son.
They seem to think that something might make sense, which makes me wonder they maybe spotted something when they were in the home that night. Did the detective who talked to you tell you anything about what he saw inside the home? Like what was on the coffee table? Was there any drug paraphernalia? Anything that made him jump to that whole idea that it will make sense?
No, he didn't say anything, and it didn't sit well with me what he said, so I called back and talked to, at that time, the main detective that I had been told to talk to, and she somewhat corrected what he said. She said that they were still investigating everything, nothing was determined, that she couldn't tell me anything, but that they hadn't stopped with the investigation. And that's pretty much what the detective told me today, is that they were still looking. And with some of the things that I told him that I'd heard, he seemed a little interested, that there were things that he had not heard. And
what
I
things?
feel like...
What sort of things?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say.
Did it have to do with anyone
sure.
else in this? Did it have to do with anybody else in this story? Meaning there were 5 men who were together that night. 1 left at midnight, he says. The other was the homeowner, and the 3 victims included your son. Did the detective suggest there might be anybody else involved and at play?
No, it was basically all about Jordan, the conversation. And the person that left early, I've spoken with him, and we had a discussion, and I know that he's telling the truth, that he left early, and that when he left, my son was alive. And he is torn up. He's devastated. He lost 3 of his friends that night. And he wishes that he had stayed or could have done something. But when he left, everything was fine. And so that person has nothing to do with what happened. It's between Jordan and my son and the 2 others, Clayton and Ricky.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.